Hello my little GSPs 561s. Happy late Valentine's Day. Generally today we're drawing, well, a very physical character for us. We're drawing Zenitsu, pretty much. It's just Zenitsu. So, Zenitsu's normally like a bit, so we always want to draw our little guidelines here. There we go, we got some of our guidelines here. Now, if this generally is like a nice little test here, because whenever you're drawing someone, you want to always start with potentially always these guidelines. These are basic guidelines. This is what just shows where your nose, mouth, potentially, or end of mouth, and eyes will go. For an anime character, it's normally like this, but you have to know exactly where your eyes are going to be. Now, in this version, just to make my life a little bit easier, we'll be doing the sleeping zenitsu, so his eyes will probably just rest behind here. Now, we'll come back to his hair like we did with Tanjiro. Moving down to his neck is just the simple two lines. And connecting down here, we've got a connect blurred line here. Then we're doing another nice little Demon Slayer uniform. I'm sure you might have some knowledge on how to do it from last time. Exactly the same, it's just different Henry and different, well, katana, and also different, like, oh, I'll find out the names later. Okay, I can't exactly remember all this information. But generally, we'll be doing a normal basic pose for him, as he's asleep, so he won't be really in his fighting glance. Moving down, we kind of where his midsection would be, and since I'm pretty sure he only has, yes, he actually only has 3 buttons, I think, but if not, we can say that he's just tucked the 4th one in. So there's his first one. Wanted to go about here roughly, but doesn't matter as long as the buttons are not that close. This is probably like a reasonable difference, as this one comes roughly to there, and as the belt comes roughly here. So let's remove that. Now his belt is a little, just, your average Demon Slayer uniform belt. It's a square with, this side's actually where the other end of the belt comes through. Whilst this side is just the normal, the normal strip of white that goes around. So normally when you're in this, this little phase, you can make as many mistakes as you want. Generally, when I'm fine drawing Zenitsu, I prefer him in his static or, sleeping pose. But normally, static will help you best get your drawing style down. Slowly but surely, adding a little bit more of the flexibility now. Since when I draw Nezuko, I particularly literally practiced her, not in that way, but practiced her on it. But anyways, back onto the belt. This belt would have another cube in it. Roughly the same, well, geometry has this one, but it's just smaller. Add 2 little dots in there, and then we got some of that done. Now back to this leg, you kind of want to come until about here, where you start wanting to move to a little bit of the side, then down, then in. This is where this little, stuff comes in. I can't actually remember the name of. Do something similar, a little bit different from the other side. As remember, these are clothes. These don't, they change they can change shape. So One kind of coming like that to then that. It's pretty much you almost got your full leg. Now do something a bit similar to this side, but then start to come a little bit more in. You kind of want to make an uneven diamond shape with him, with his legs. So there we go. Uneven diamond shape with his legs. That's pretty much base of the Demon Slayer uniform done on him. Now we're gonna move on to his bit of his Hinui before, we're moving on to his rest of his legs. Generally, he's a short shouldered, so his shoulders should come about here. Roughly here, his shoulders should start coming into his arm. So we can make sure that, once again, his Hinui will come roughly here. As in the show, he gets bit by a spider in the mountain. Anyways, we want to kind of have a rectangular-ish shape, but then we'll come back to it and add a little bit more of that triangle, like first guess to it. To give it a little bit more of a clothing feel to it. There's also a separation line here, which pretty much connects to the point where I was pointing to, and this will end here. So as we move down, it roughly stops where this little curve is, which is why this curve here is very useful. Since that means for the rest of it, you can just guide it. It means that point is where that also should end. Now, to actually have to create my own work, this should actually probably be just a bit longer. We don't want to have another little repeat of time drain. As I made a little mistake. His arms were way too short, I can tell you that. So there we go, we got a little bit of a longer arm. As generally, we got obviously all this. But before we do forget, we have to add one of the Demon Slayer core features to him, which is the little badge thing. It's part of the uniform, but I'll obviously do a little bit more research into that, and I'll probably make it in a little post, but I don't know. Let's do something a little bit similar to his other arm, so it pretty much connects the points, so you won't have a faint outline, but kind of just to show where it roughly should end, which I've got to do well, pretty much. Remember, one of these has to end in its. So you have the basic shape, comes up, and then connects. Then add the separation line again, then come in and add the corners. There we have his Hinui pretty much almost done. But since it's mainly triangles, but there's another thing about his Hinui that really does make him special. His Hinui actually has a hue shift from bottom orange to the more top yellow. The same somewhat goes for his, little things there. So we'll add the faint outline to show where the hue shift is. Which there we are. To add one little bit of the Demon Slayer uniform that's not hidden, not hidden by the Hinui. We'll have to add a little bit more detail onto his arms. As you can see, it's pretty much a rectangle in a rectangle. Well, rectangle on top of a rectangle. Just a tad bit smaller. Now, when we get to the rubbing out phase, we will pretty much try our best to ignore these lines here, as these lines here are substantial to our little phasing of the colours. Now, moving down, because we're waiting on his hair, because his hair is detailed, not as detailed as like Tanjiro's hair. So moving down, we will have generally. Well, we're not going to have another repeat of Tanjiro, trust me. If we do, I won't believe it. I'll literally go and give all my characters dwarfism. Which, generally looking back at majority of this, you think it's more diamonds, but sometimes it's just slits. Like, general slits. So, back one is, so you want to do your standard bow tie, which, don't worry, eventually I will show you how to do it, but it's pretty much just a circle and 2 triangles without the tops, because it's technically the tops in the circle. Then we have a slit, then we have another on that, which has another bit of the bow. Then it's a little bit more small slit, then it's the bow. So there's one leg done, as you can see. We'll add some of our little lines here to represent, which generally just shows where it needs to go. Same for the other side, but this other side is going to be a little bit different. Now, we're going to go back to this one, because it's actually a bit more baggier. It's not directly connected, but it's baggy. It's a little bit more sharper, yes, but it's not as thin as it's portrayed. So there we go. We roughly got all that. This is in focus. No, but you can make out the rough shape. The reason why we don't actually add any of our little details, like the thickening up bits here, is because of one little reason. It's called blocking out a little bit. Blocking out is normally used in 3D modeling. It could also be used in 2D sometimes, particularly, you know, when you're not confident on how it goes. You want to kind of plan it. So if, for example, it's not a shape you want to keep majority of the time, but sometimes it looks good. Tanjiro has it. Tanjiro's actually got the, you know, more blocking out design. Then again, I did give him dwarfism by accident. No, not being demonstrated to dwarfism now here, but just, yeah, I actually did that to him. I pretty much gave him what Nezuko can do. As we continue down this, so his all, well, I can't remember the name. Oh man, but what we'll call it is shoe, I guess, because it's kind of like a sandal, but not actually a sandal at the same time. It's not also what they wear in Japan either, but it's pretty much for his foot, not his actual shoe. You want to add a triangle, then you want for his little straps, add a little bit of that. It's pretty much rectangle, but does not end. And technically the ends here, then add, and come on the other side, add that, and go like that. Then add your little edges here. Then add, obviously this will be flat. Then add your rectangle here that goes across the whole foot. Now, since this side we're going to roughly do, we're going to show you how to do the other side of the foot instead of just doing the flat. Now, we want to kind of do the similar thing as last time, but it's going to be a bit more different. It comes a little bit more down, and it also then kind of goes like that, but you want to shrink it. So, this one end comes here, and then we have 1 and 2, and we've got that. Which then we can add the rest of the back foot, which from here is just that. Which then there's just like one little smith of that. So pretty much somewhat of a triangle, but not, because it comes. Now, just to show you what I did, but a little bit more bigger on this side here. Pretty much, what we did is we added a bit like that. Pretty much, we'll make it in like a kind of a mushroom-ish shape, or like generally like a shark's or a nose. Then we will come back up to here. That's pretty much the end bit. So that's what we kind of did, but we had to scale it down to pretty much a smaller size so it can match with the other foot. Then what we should have done instead of going a little bit haywire, we should have added this first. Good way to practice this is generally by going smaller with each drawing. Now this will require a lot of space, not too much. If you do somewhat this size, it should not require as much paper, but it also makes your hands ache after a little while. But hey, artist needs breaks. So that's pretty much the foot at its peak. Now it's time to get this dreadful little hair out of the way. Or first we can move on to his face. So roughly remove his all hair's outlines. So we're doing his eyes first because it's sleeping. He's asleep. Got his little eyes there. Then his nose comes in a little bit more different. Now, in general, his nose is like small. Not as great as Tanjo's. Like, obviously he's in hearing, so. When he is in the sleeping state, he normally has just a frown, a little frown, as he's technically concentrating instead of being fearful. His eyebrows will also. This is the first time we're actually drawing the character angry. Just as a little fun fact. So this is one one's pretty much it's triangle that ends in like a rocket shape. Triangle ends in a rocket shape. So there we go. We got his eyebrows. Now his hair generally kind of comes. It can come in any general way, but we want to keep the front. Majority of it similar. It comes down, and it also will tend to cover some of his eyebrows. So any of that hard work is on your eyebrows. I'm truly sorry. As obviously, a lot of the time it will come out, but yeah, don't spend too much rubbing over the eyebrows. Once I add some of these lines here, just to also add a little bit of lines here, just for like his eyelids, his tiredness, I guess. The last bit of it will come roughly here, just a little bit below his left eye. Then it comes up, then sidewards, back a little bit, then up. Then it's roughly here, like that's the final bit of his little strand of his hair, which then comes back up to meeting the top. Then we have to add his ear, which then adds a little bit of that, which, by the way, we shall add a little bit more detail later on. Coming a bit on this side, this bit actually immediately ends, which then, if we just simply add a little, remove this because it's not actually meant to got that. What it's meant to do is actually come like that, like a little flat bit, like a tiny one, then immediately up again, which goes into this position here, which is another, it's really random, and I can't exactly explain how his hair is like this influences. It's a bit like my hair. You will just do circles, but Zenitsu's hair is just more squared. His ear also has to come roughly in the same spots, but we can easily adjust that later, whenever we're in the inking process. And there we go, we have roughly his hair. Some of the details will come particularly at the top of his head, where you can see where some lines end, some start. Generally, you can add some random lines, but there's some key lines like these, so pretty much you like it about to form an end, but it's becoming more of a wide M than a slash. Come a little bit down here, just a line and a slash. Then over here, the same too, we're going for a slash. And you want to add two particular ends to each of the strands of hair. By the way, we'll cut off where the ends don't actually touch the ears. Now it's time for his sword, which, by the way, we should probably increase his wrist size. Now, don't immediately move always onto the inking process after, because if you do, you won't have time to fix mistakes. It'll be already too late. So, kind of like that. Same for the other side. But you want to change it just like a little bit. Now, this is once again another form of blocking out. Generally, so you know roughly where your hands will go, but we'll do a little bit on this side too. This is where roughly how his thumb will go. Pretty much, it's like robot hands, but a little bit crappier. Now, moving on to his torso, you will have a block out again, where you will have the tip of his sword just under his little button here, which then goes in, follow it, and out. Which should be a little bit more facing upwards, since technically they're always besides the legs. Sorry if you heard me breathing there. With it, drag it somewhat up, then cap. Follow it. It should be roughly here, then here. Which there's his end of his sword. Now, add some guard. It is a unique shape of guard, which I actually have the sword, as you saw in probably one of my community posts. If you're not a person to go into community posts, that's fine. Now, this version of the sword is actually, from what I've seen and from what I've read from the manga, he is the only one from Tanjiro's little group of friends who not actually lost their swords. Now, obviously, evidence can't back this up. They could have lost his sword at some point, but we never actually truly meet his swordsmith. So my point is that he's just a little good boy from the demon circle, and just generally keeps good damn contained of his swords. Obviously, this cannot be true either. This could be completely false. So don't take this as a grain of salt. Now, there's 3 versions of this little bit here, and there's lines going across. Same for this side, but it's a little bit more different, which doesn't really affect much. Now, we'll be moving on this side whenever the video comes out. Do a little bit of a copy and paste of the previous outlines. As we come up a little bit more, we will do some of these. You've roughly got majority of that done. Now, with side bits, you can actually potentially do a little checkered pattern, but not to the point where they're connected, like I just done there. But I can't exactly remove it without accidentally removing this section here. Now, they should be spaced apart like that, to then that. And as you can see, it's complicated when you want to start the smoother end of these stuff, because generally it's hard to make sure each time you are accurate on these little bits. But I assure you, you can potentially find accuracy in some spots when you join Zenitsu. Zenitsu is more of the mild characters, just to bring, some excitement and carry, and how do I say this without offending any Zenitsu fans? Cowardice to the show. Here we have to kind of make it a little bit more smaller, and also I forgot to thicken up a little bit, so make it a little bit more wider. Some of those parts there, which generally once done. Now, these legs bits, you can do it willy-nilly, as long as it's not in the slits, but these little bits here. Now, it's time for the hands. Now, when you're drawing the hands, it could generally be a mixture of whatever you can try. But normally, if it's like a fat character, you want to have big hands. If it's a skinny character, you want thin, little knobbly hands. If it's an anime character, you want to have somewhat accurate hands to a normal human, but not to the point where it's uncanny. As if you get to that stage, I'm sure Mikani will give you applause. As we reach the end of our little bits here, also do just your average highlights, which is normally roughly around this region here to here. Now, this common theme here is actually the same thing for last time with Tanjo. He has almost the same width and size of this, but I'll say the highlights do add some detail that you can't simply do in pencil without looking. It's drawn pencil. But yeah, generally most of the time when I'm drawing some art, I generally want to make sure that it looks good. Because the one pro tip, if you make a little mistake, it can always be covered up. You're saying, oh, it's a little bit random at times. proven here with a bit of zenitsu. Or saying my pencil's not sharpened, or you accidentally spill your hot chocolate, hot coffee, or you make sense. Tea or coffee can make it like a really cool effect on it. That's generally how the artist normally does stuff. It's time for his inking phase. Now we'll do the eyes first, and his eyebrows. Now in this phase, you have a lot more free will to chat. You have like majority of the time, you can just chat about anything because you're following your previous pencil lines to a T. Now, at some points you do have to concentrate a little bit. Exactly from there, because we're also doing some bits of his hair to make it obviously sure that each is accurate. We're adding a bit of his ear, a bit of his ear here, at the ends, that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and then a little bit of that. Now, then it seems a little bit more in a serious state, or I guess sleeping state, you probably would prefer it as. I generally like how his personality shifts. Instead of being the goofball as he is, he becomes a lot more serious. Reminds me of a person that I know at school. I'm not going to say any names here, just because to respect the person. But I'm assuring, if they're watching this video, they know exactly who they are. But generally, going over this whole little bit here, you don't want to make that too thick now. Or you may look like in a Guillaume or Tengen situation going on. An easy mistake is you can get too, let's say, arrogant with your art. If you get too arrogant with your art, you're not going to do well in the artistry world. Now, sometimes if you're just an amazing artist at heart, you can potentially get away with being a little arrogant. But if you're like a little artist like me, or like a music artist, if you get too cocky or arrogant, then you start to fail a little bit. So that's the one thing you always have to remember as an artist. If you're starting your career, you respect your customers and you'll be polite to them. Especially in the shopping business, the shopping and like online consuming stuff. Now, I normally don't share some stories, but I might be doing. No, I don't want to go down the storytelling route, but generally, oh yeah, I forgot to do the flashlights. Well, too late to do it now. Yeah, you can tell this is an after. So it starts off with this little shopkeeper. We'll call him. We call him Jim. Now, Jim is an arrogant guy, so he's pretty much not doing his job as he's really truly worth. Now, if you want to do your shop good and bring in a lot of customers, there's always one business tip you want to follow by. Treat customers with respect. Now, customers are not always right, but if you don't treat them with respect, they will most likely never come back to you again. As, obviously, if they're local, they kind of have to because they rely on the shop to, if they don't have a car, they can't use that to, especially if they don't want to walk or can't. So it's pretty much their only last resort, but obviously, the shopkeepers probably know this at this rate. Now, Jem here, he truly is the arrogant guy you will meet. He's like the sleazy business guy, but worse. And those guys are the bad. But generally, as a years goes by, there was a previous one there, and he was a nice one. But as soon as Jim took over, because obviously the other one retired, he got too old. Most people do. It starts to change the atmosphere of the shop. Now, I won't be saying particularly any of this, but the shop becomes less inviting to customers. Now, I was like, I can't exactly stop going here. I don't want to really potentially risk me not being able to go to school. Or getting mugged. Trust me, you don't want to be mugged. You'll be probably most likely traumatized from this experience. But generally, whenever you are out in the streets where I live, the best tip is you always got to know how to fight. But I won't be moving on to that. Generally, this guy gets a lot of karma, I can tell you that. Now, I don't believe in anything, I'm not that type of guy. But karma is normally just a use of just getting what you deserved. Now, I can tell you a funny story. I was trying to get a job, and just because, I don't get paid by YouTube, obviously, a lot of people, now, the one thing is, they thought I was doing a newspaper job. Now, here's another thing. My brother. Yes, you never knew I had a brother, did you? Now, my brother used to do the same thing as newspaper boy. He'll get £80 a month. Now, I want to hear the grand total of what I would have paid in an hour. £2. £2 is £2, but not worth it right around where I live. An hour before even my bus gets here. So I can potentially go to school. So I don't go to school where I live. Now, it wouldn't be worth me riding around my whole little town where I live. But generally, it's dangerous, and even if you go quick because you want to serve, consumers, you won't be getting paid. Anyways, that is done with the outlining. It's now actually about to move on. Now, we got statues. Pause story time, save it for Korean. As you can see, I have forgotten to do some outlines. I'll pull out a pen. It's a little bit thicker, but it's the job done. Boom. As we're starting to neaten up, a lot of our little, mistakes will be done along the way. We gotta try and avoid where we are working with. Because if we don't, we won't know where it is. And as you can see, I made a little mistake. But as we slowly get to it, we slow it down. But not on our friction, but we slow roughly down. Or moving downwards, or moving, upwards, I guess. And you see, it's kind of like a washing machine. You kind of want to have like an inbuilt program of going back and forth. You want to make sure those hands are clean. As we move down, if it was all your mistakes, you should go back over with pen. If you're not confident, you should go back with pencil. Right, now, confidence in your art gets you a long way. Now, you also got to make sure that it's alright in your eyes. Obviously, look, if we go back to how I just did that hand there, you see that it was too big. So I came back over it with pen. Zenitsu's face, you can see there's not many mistakes, but you can see where the pencil covers up a lot of the mistakes you have made. Which is why normally people prefer straight on inking instead of planning, because they have a funny feeling that most likely will do it. Some people would probably just do pencil, rub it out slightly so you can still see roughly where the outlines will be, and then ink it like on the point and then colour. Now, what I normally do is I always pencil out first, because generally, if you don't pencil out to the point, and also because it's for the video, you won't know exactly what to do. You will just be stumped as you would be as a beaver without wood and no water. So see, as you go back over, you can connect lines you missed. You can fix some little errors. Oh, you can even make sure that everything always is there. That's why I prefer doing this. It's a lot more longer and time consuming, yes. But art has always been nationally known as time consuming. Animation as well. And just for your little knowledge, and that, soon after I am planning to do a TF2 video on how to draw. I'm pretty sure I'm planning to do the spy. And no, I won't be doing the French accent for the whole video. And I'm working on a stop motion with Tsunami again. But moving on to our colours that I have prepared off camera. We want our melon, potentially even orange, but this would be for our separation lines. We want yellow, as, well, it should be a little bit obvious for zenitsu here. Then we want salmon pink or skin tone that's lighter. We would want walnut or brown. Our classic red wine, or pretty dark red. Cream for shadows and highlights for our skin. And burnt sienna for our uniform. And finally, we would want orange, or a particular colour orange which I'm looking for right now. We could do with some orange flames today. So, we're going to start on the good old separation line. Because that almost like you get covered up anyways, knowing the... No, this is just a tad. It's like just a hue shift. Apart from some bits of the hue shift. Which, there you go, we have, that's pretty much all the colour is used for. Funny, isn't it? Then actually we should probably do a little bit down here. Which I actually forgot about. Now, we shall start with the orange flames. Generally, we're going to want to roughly stop about here. We want a kind of little blending going on with the colour. Showing that it's intertwining with each other, but not to the point where it's mixed. Now, these triangles should try your best to keep them white. If not, don't panic. Try your best. If you don't matter if it gets like a little bit difference, and slowly continue up until you hit that, boundary. Boundary? What? Sounds like you're saying boundary. Bonbon. Sorry. I literally said earlier I won't be doing the French accent, it's the spy. There you have it. I did it in the zenitsu video instead. But anyways, focusing back into what we're doing here, try your best to keep in the boundaries of your little black inks you have done before. There we have it. We've almost done with the entire bit of the orange, but we still have to do more orange later on. Don't we love capitalism? So coming down the arm, we want to kind of make sure that each of it kind of connects back up. This kind of one is kind of like, you slowly blocking it out, making small sections so you don't overwear yourself. It's longer, yes, but if you condense yourself more into small parts, I think it's just gonna look so good when you're done. I'm gonna show you, it will help you mentally continue. Now moving on to our yellow part, but we're doing the Henry first because it's more harder compared to the rest of the outfit. So it's also, this yellow might not last through this video today. It might also have to end in the bin. But whatever, I can make anything work. As you can see, we've got our yellow bits slowly coming in. And as I thought, this yellow will definitely not last this video. So, trying to pull up, hopefully I should have it back up. We'll leave the other side for now, but returning him back to from this, we're now changing. You can probably tell we have to use a different yellow, but it matches a little bit more of the other yellow, the melon yellow we used. You can see that some highlights. Remember, artists can always cover them with mistakes. Anyways, probably my bad anyway, since I should have checked. So there we've got the Henry. Now, his eyebrows and all that will be a little bit more harder. So once again, we're saving those for last. Sorry for the slurping sounds, viewers. I'm currently having some hot chocolate to soothe my throat from all the talking. We want to kind of do the similar thing from down here, but not just similar, like, you also have to try and avoid a lot more stuff down the legs. So I chose to probably start with these first, instead of going for the arms. And switch over for a yellow, which then will make our life a lot more easier. Now, as soon as we finish with this other leg, we'll come back actually over that pen, but it's for thickening instead of actually outlining. Because some parts of these, in some images, they're a bit thicker. So I want to add a little bit of thickness to it, but not to the point where we overdo it. Wait, is that the same pen? No, it is not the same pen. I wonder why. There we have it. A lot more of a thicker line, but don't take this as in being flat. Please don't. So we have pretty much done base colour. We're still doing our yellow and orange. So you know how those ends, those little pesky ends of Zenitsu's hair, they're exactly the same. without the huge shift of the clothes. So where they end, they'll be roughly about there. Each strand is also going to have to end in their own scientific way. Which is why I kind of left the hair for last. And if I deeply look into Zenitsu's eyes, and no, I'm not gay, trust me. You know what I have forgotten to add? The details to his eyes I forgot to add. So he had a little bit of eyelids, and he had a little bit more of a noise expression. Moving on to his yarn. Do some light tapping. For this we do not really have to, and also forgot to do this whole front bit, so we'll leave them for more the end. Guess let's do experiments. If you did all those front bits, congratulations, do nice like me. Don't front bits. And a bit more yarn. Boom. We got his hair. We now have salmon pink. We're also about to hit the time where this video is meant to release. Now we have our little salmon pink as mentioned before, I believe. We're now doing his face. His face, normally I want to do. Now, the one thing is a lot about Zenitsu, he's the only character who sleeps. I've seen him actually physically sleep during a fight. So that means I don't have to do these eyes. I don't have to try my best to ignore the whites. I can just move directly onto the face. I can just cover it on all skin tone. But you can't just forget, because a character that has no details always has to have some goddamn highlights. Samples from that. It's a little bit like Gojo, but he has eyes, and his eyes tend to be a little bit out sometimes. Actually, looking from the camera's perspective, looks like he's got bruised. No, I guess he got punched a little bit. Moving down to his hands. Pour out your salmon pink. Now, because I'm more of a traditional artist, not a digital one, the one thing is you can't exactly add the fingernails or ends of fingers too well. You will need literally a nano pencil to do it. So, you're lucky rugby. Now we have the main attraction of Zenitsu, his uniform. Because, obviously, in the manga and anime, the Demon Slayer Corps is not recognised by the government. So that means they have never actually seen a demon eating the citizens of Japan. Oh no. Hey, that might be a wild situation down here too. But instead of demons, it's people that act like demons. So, we have the common trope of the Demon Slayer uniform getting filled in. These are silver, so we shall wait for them. Adding a little bit more detail, should see how this always look. It depends if we should add a little bit of extra detail for Zenitsu, but Zenitsu can hold off another day. Now, normally in the show, it's actually more of a brownish black, which I don't have. So I heavily rely on red wine. In the manga, it is just black, but then again, manga is manga, and black is the most common trope for mangas. Well, they're black and white. But it's more of a brown in highlights, but it can also be considered a bit more black. So I would just go for highlights, brown. The rest of it is that'll be the thick one. Now moving on to this little section of highlights, you want to kind of focus a little bit more because it's next to a button. Always want to make sure that whenever you're in the highlighting or specific colour phase, you don't accidentally go in the hinui, because the hinui, let's say if Zenitsu didn't have his hair, these little bits here, nor his hinui, he'll just literally look like an average demon slayer with just a plain yellow sword and an electric design sword, sorry. Which is the one thing that separates Zenitsu, besides his personality, from an average demon slayer. Also add some red wine to your... No, these bits here are cups, so don't add them. If you did, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this before I did. Add a little bit yellow to the end of the sword. Now we're moving on to the final part, which is his bottom part of his legs, and also I should probably add a little bit more colour. Make sure there's no white. Now that sounds... No, don't take it out of context now, please. I don't want to get cancelled. Focusing up, you want to make sure that generally it's also get to more time to chat to you guys. Now, I was going to continue on to about the story earlier, but it's like, nah. Pretty much, I could just tell you how that business is still somehow running. That's pretty much the end of the thing I used. There's no Easter Bunny, there's no Santa Claus, and there's no... Yeah, pretty much, if you know that reference, congratulations. Your mentor is probably as old as me. Now, the actual kind of colour the uniform reminds me of is walnut. Chestnut. It's kind of like this, but on camera it looks black. So I would suggest potentially using walnut. Potentially for the next character on the list, Inosuke after the spy. Then finally, for almost our final detail, add his brown little parts of his bottom part. And there you have it. You have completed Zenitsu. Now, generally, he looks like he's bruised up here, but I can show you. You've actually almost forgotten about one tiny detail before I end the video. Grab one last colour. This should be your warm grey. If you don't have metallic twin, just use your normal warm grey. And the buttons, you want to make sure you never forget about these, because if you do, you end the video like I was about to do, then you will have an unfinished Zenitsu. Now, we have completed Zenitsu. Now he looks a lot more better than Tayo, I will admit. He's about that small. Also, you've got that little foot. And there we have it. Maybe after Inosuke I might do one of the Hushers or moves on. It might be this guy here. But anyways, yeah, that's all from me. GSP signing out, and I've seen this new feature on YouTube. You should subscribe. but I'm not going to force you. And I'm sorry I have to say that, because I'm now at 56 subscribers. So, see ya.